Hi everyone. I am sorry for this ridiculous setup. I am in a new environment once again, and I keep trying to figure out some way of shooting this without my stand, and everything seems disproportionate, so if I look really weird, you'll know why. I am just going to get right into this reading because I've been having a really hard time getting myself into the right frame of mind for this, and the reading itself sort of explains all of that. It's not just me, it's the energies, and because it is kind of heavy, and because it is not actually a reading that corresponds specifically to the next week, but more likely to the next few weeks, perhaps even longer. I also decided to do a little bonus reading at the end by pulling an extra few cards from the Rider-Waite deck, specifically geared towards holidays and the energies of the holidays, for those of you who may be concerned about how that plays out energetically for you. Anyway, getting right into it, we will start with our Spirit Animal Oracle card of the week, and we got Eagle Spirit. Eagle Spirit is number 23, and Eagle Spirit's message is that Spirit has our backs. And reading from the Oracle book, the message in detail is: think of the eagles flying high above the other birds soaring on the wind. Eagle Spirit has appeared to ask whether you're willing to soar to new heights, even if that means solitude for a short while. Truly, all the wisdom of the world is available to you. When storms flash across the sky, it is Eagle Spirit that raises you above it all, helping you conquer fear and overcome adversity, reminding you that Spirit has your back and wants you to experience life at its fullest. At this moment, you are meant to know that you have the highest of wisdom and courage within, gifted to you by Spirit and all the angels. Boldly build your nest in a lofty space and know that now you can fly effortlessly, proudly embodying Eagle Spirit in all her glory and grace, claiming what is truly yours in divine timing. If you're walking awkwardly and feel embarrassed, Eagle Spirit is here to tell you that is only because right now you are meant to fly. Soar over the troubles that have you feeling scared and alone. See the big picture, yet retain your eagle eye for the details that help you claim your wisdom and courage. Or perhaps you are making yourself small for the sake of getting others to accept you. Now is not the time to be vulnerable and dependent, for you have the wings to fly on your own, and you need to do that at this time. There is no need to huddle in a shelter or even to seek out a flock to support you, for Eagle Spirit says you have tremendous wisdom and courage within. Let it arise so that you may soar proudly, with the angels serving as the wind beneath your wings. From these heights you can make the best and most powerful choices for the highest good of all. And, this is one of the most spiritual times of the year, but also the darkest time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And as we prepare for Winter Solstice, we are asked to take the time to be reflective in gratitude and in observation of all that we have accomplished, all that we have lost, all that we have gained, and all that we have given and received in the year leading up to this period of time. Sorry, I have a little bit of an uncomfortable neck right now. And I think this reading is going to take us on a little bit of a journey into understanding how we should do that to better serve ourselves. And how we're not, perhaps, managing to provide that for ourselves right now, because that is what I got from the underlying message of this reading. And I will get into that. I don't mean to be extra tantalizing, but before we do, let's talk a little bit about the astrology of this time. We are getting ready to move into Capricorn season, and this is going to be very, very intense. As you may all know, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn in January is meant to be one of the most pivotal and important moments of the decade ahead, and of the decade we are leaving behind. And nobody really knows exactly how that's going to manifest, but what we do know is Saturn is the planet of time, Chronos, and rules, and order, and correction, and justice, and it's generally seen as disempowering in the sense that it towers over us in influence. But this is a fallacy, because when we get into the groove of Saturn, and we understand what Saturn represents, Saturn has rings. The rings of Saturn represent boundaries. And Capricorn is also all about rules and hierarchy, and Pluto is all about death. In other words, death of what does not serve us. Pluto, when aspected in conjunction with other planets, is there to force us to eliminate things that are to our detriment. We talked about that last week. On a global scale, this could manifest in very destructive manners. And I don't mean that in a doomsday prophecy way. It is just about restructuring our systems. I got into this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. America, for example, is a very young country, and we think that if our current system were to collapse, that somehow that would be the end of America. But I gave the example of looking at the parallel with countries in Europe. You take France, for example. In the last 200 years, France has gone from a monarchy to an empire to a republic. And they're on their fifth version of that republic. Older countries reinvent themselves. The government system is forever in transition. And I think that may be what we're looking at in the year ahead in the world, is like a new system coming to light. And of course, when new things arise, the old gets destroyed. Pluto's job. Now, apply that to yourself on a personal level, and think about that. What systems do you have in place in your life that get in your way what systems in your life restrict you to such a degree that you're not able to grow beyond where you are at. These are the things that are going to be challenged. And whether or not you see that as a good thing or a bad thing is going to depend on how comfortable you are with change and how comfortable you are with letting go. So, our underlying issue for this reading we got the Ace of Pentacles in reverse and clarified by the Devil. This is where I sort of realized that this was going to be another heavy reading, because the Ace of Pentacles in reverse really represents a feeling of a lack of opportunity. It is a deep sense of a void of purposefulness. And because it was clarified by the Devil, that's really sort of explaining to us why the underlying energy is this lack of opportunity. The Devil is all about our shadow self that gets in our way. It is all about the parts of ourselves that we are not in control of or in acceptance of. It is our addictions, it's our codependency, it is our escapism into alcohol, drugs, sex, unhealthy relationships, imbalance. So the imbalances are what are causing the feeling of the lack of opportunity. Because I do have to stipulate that it is a feeling. That's what I'm understanding. It's not that the opportunities aren't there. Opportunity is always lurking somewhere. But it is that we are getting in our own way. And again, not all of us are actively looking for opportunities in the tangible sense. It can be the opportunity to embrace the changes that we were just talking about in terms of the planetary energies up ahead. As we go through this eclipse, what I should say is, we have the solstice on the 20th, 21st. We flip into Capricorn season, and on the night of the 25th to the 26th in America, on the 26th in Europe and the rest of the world, we have a solar eclipse. There's a lot of activation in this energy. There is a lot of intensity in this. The sun, when at the time of the solstice, the sun moves over the Galactic Center. And we talked about how Venus and Jupiter were crossing over the Galactic Center, and then Mercury crossed over the Galactic Center. A lot of these are heavy energy activations, if you are open to that sort of thing. So we're ripe, but we're not seeing the opportunities. And that is because we're getting in our own way. So we need to figure that out. And this reading is going to hopefully help us to shed some light on that. So in our underlying past energy, again, we have a lot of cards of lack. There are a lot of coins in this reading. Let me just say before we move any further, like our primary cards were predominantly, well, we got 3 5s, which are the cards of chaos. We got well, it's actually pretty even-keeled in terms of the delineation of the elements. But the coin cards stand out because they are negatively aspected in the reading. So, what are coins? Coins or pentacles are material selves. They are representations of how we manifest in the world in a materialistic fashion. That can be in terms of our worth. It can be, and that can be both tangible and self-worth. It's our money, it's our material possessions, and it's our attitude towards those things. So we're coming out of 5 of Pentacles energy, clarified by the 7 of Cups. The 5 of Pentacles is the card of poverty consciousness. And it's a self-imposed state of mind. 7 of Cups, reversed, speaks of either having been in a place of having no options, or seeing no options, or it is that our poverty consciousness is what also allowed us to get to a place of understanding how unimportant multitudes of options are when we are in lack. In other words, when you're in poverty consciousness, having lots of choices. Well, let's put it this way. If you go into a candy store and you don't have any money, having all the candy around you is going to make you miserable. It's not going to make you happy because you can't buy any of it, right? So it's sort of that vibe. Then we go on to the 5 of Wands, clarified by the 3 of Wands. Now, the 5 of Wands is... it's a card of competition, but this is an inner journey reading that we're getting here. So this is about being at odds with ourselves. It's being in the position of well, if you take a good look at this card, the way it's represented in the Botticelli deck, it almost seems like he doesn't know what to do with his elements. Probably because he's so firmly focused on putting boundaries in place. So, and the 3 of Wands speaks of waiting for our ships to come in. So, what I'm getting from this so far is we've been in this poverty consciousness in the past. It's given us a sense of having a limited spectrum of opportunity. We've recognized that we've done the work and we have the elements, but we don't know how to put our plan into play. And so we've maybe convinced ourselves that instead things are going to happen for us without making the effort. And just sort of looking at the ingredients rather than mixing them together. Then we have the Strength card, leading us out of the past into the present energy, and it was clarified by the Hierophant. So, that tells me that we've had to find our inner strength. We've had to kind of hoist ourselves up by what's the saying? I want to say our bra straps, but I don't wear a bra. So, but you know what I mean. And the Hierophant is telling us that the way that we've had to do this is by moving into tradition. It is about coming back. You know, perhaps we spent a little bit of time in our life, or a long period of time in our life, outside of a system, or shunning a system, or wanting to be separate in order to do that inner work and go on that inner journey. And then we found ourselves having to find the strength in order to get us back onto the hamster wheel of life, so to speak. Moving into the present energy, we start with the Nine of Pentacles, clarified by the Hanged Man. So this is us then coming into a period of contemplation. The Nine of Pentacles tells us that we have everything that we need in order to be self-satisfied. And the Hanged Man is clarifying that in that state of self-satisfaction, we are taking the time again to suspend ourselves in our own reality in a place of observation in order for us to survey our surroundings, perhaps reignite our sense of opportunity now that we have let go of our poverty consciousness perspective. But in order to do so, we have to sort of get the lay of the land assimilated. So there's a little bit of a waiting energy coming out of the past into the present, that perhaps we're like a little bit like a cat, like some kind of feline perspective of, you know, I don't want to talk about it just from a predatory perspective, but like, you know, awaiting the right moment to pounce, to catch our prey. The prey in this case being opportunity. These two cards came out together in our present, in our center of the spread. We have the Five of Cups and the Six of Pentacles, and it was clarified by the Nine of Swords. The Five of Cups is a card of mourning, of heartache, of sadness, of melancholy, perspective, and the Six of Pentacles is the receiving and giving balance. It's a card of being in the position of abundance in order to give and receive. So there's a dichotomy here, because maybe what we're feeling at present is a sense of grief, or a sense of grief in that we have to let go of old ways. But, you know, when we're really deeply attached to a certain way of being and a certain way of behaving, letting go of that can really be quite daunting and upsetting. And we have to move beyond those things in order to come into that balance of receiving and giving. And this transition seems to be causing strife, because the Nine of Swords is a card of worry. So there's something about how our emotions and our material existence are interacting or not flowing. There's a blockage there, and we're trying to figure that out, and it's causing us to worry about it, because that disconnect is getting in our way of reaching out for opportunity, or accepting opportunity, or accepting anything, perhaps. And it was followed by the Ten of Pentacles in reverse, clarified by the Two of Wands. So, Ten of Pentacles in reverse, the Ten of Pentacles upright is the card of legacy. It is the card of being fulfilled to such a degree that we are able to embody that Six of Pentacles energy of giving and receiving in equal measure. And because it's reversed, it's saying that we are really struggling with this. It's no longer about being stuck in poverty consciousness. It's about not having any idea of what our legacy is. That's what's tripping us up. We don't know what we want to amount to. We don't know what our value is. We don't have a long-term plan. And the Two of Wands is telling us that we need to make a decision about that. It's an informed decision. This is not the Two of Swords. So we have the strength on our side to be able to make that decision. We have the inner sense of bountifulness and perspective, Hangman, to be able to make that decision. But it is what is necessary in order for us to move forward, is to, it's all making sense now. This is about figuring out, you can't find opportunity if you don't know where you're going, right? So we're trying to figure out what our desired path is and what our legacy is going to be in order to make that choice. In our future, we got the Moon card, clarified by the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. So we went from the Nine of Pentacles upright in the present to our future having the Nine of Pentacles as a clarifier in the reverse to the Moon. Now, the Moon could be telling us to focus on our energies in the important aspects of the next lunar cycle, the new moon and the full moon. So pay attention to those dates to set intention. But the moon is also the card of intuition. It's the inner life. It is deep insight into our subconscious feelings. And because the Nine of Pentacles came out reversed, seems like maybe we're going to have a little bit of a crisis of understanding that, like, we've lost touch with our intuition, maybe. Temporarily. But again, another reason why the lunar cycles are always... Ow, excuse me. I have to move these, and these legs, and this camera angle makes me look like I've got, like, giant legs and a tiny upper body. But you'll just have to deal with it. I guess I'll have to deal with it. Yes, so that's our lack. The lunar cycle, what I was about to say, the lunar cycle is where we can come back into alignment with, when we set intention on the new moon, and we observe and discard what doesn't work for us at the full moon, we come into a better understanding of our intuition. We come back into alignment with our intuition. So this, I think, is what the directive is. Whatever lack of intuition that's preventing us from knowing our path of legacy and opportunity it's requiring of us to do some inner work, to tap into our intuition. And what comes as a result of that is the Queen of Swords, clarified by the Hermit. Now, Queen of Swords is the truth slayer. She knows herself. She knows what she wants. She knows what she believes in. She knows her boundaries. She is empowered. She holds the truth in her heart, and she wears it on her sleeve. She also takes no bullshit. And maybe that's what we're going to get out of that intuition, out of that nourishing of our intuition. We come back into alignment with this knowing our truth and knowing our power and going out into the world owning that. I know personally for me, I'm in the process, having moved back to the United States, of having to put myself back into a place of seeking employment. And, a lot of this poverty consciousness and not knowing legacy and so on and so forth certainly applies to me in that way. And so I can understand how what it could, me going back out into the world, knowing my worth and knowing how basically, it's not about not giving a shit what other people think, but it's just kind of like, I'm worth this. If other people aren't seeing it, it doesn't matter. They're not going to hire me for that job. I'll just apply for another, and so on and so forth. So that's on a more tangible level, how it works for somebody in my position. It can be emotional, it could be on any other level for you. So apply it how you want. But the energies, that's what's so fascinating about tarot and astrology, is that they help us to understand the energetic flow that each of us is affected by in similar ways, but in different ways based upon our circumstances, and based upon our personalities. Anyway, moving on. The Hermit clarified that, so that also reiterates the need to do the inner work. The Hermit tells us that we do our truth slaying, we do all that in ownership of our power, but the only way that we really get there is by doing that work. So if you're like me and you're feeling sorry for yourself because you're all alone for Christmas, you might be, having a few too many glasses of wine, or smoking a little pot, or watching too much not particularly educational television programming, or whatever it may be. We have to do that inner work. It's not to say that you can't do those other things, because all things in moderation are healthy as far as I'm concerned. But if you are not doing the inner work, you will probably find that you become very imbalanced, or a little too, even if it's only a small imbalance, just shifting out of alignment takes us off our course, So, anyway. Good news is we do end with a positive outcome, because we get the Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands is a huge amount of opportunity and inspiration coming in. It's getting that pep in our stride. It is regaining our self-confidence, and it then in turn allows us to have the Four of Wands, which is celebration and community and sanctity. And the Page of Cups, which is another aspect of that pep, but in this case it's an emotional pep in terms of how we are able to process our emotions in such a way that allows us to go out into the world with youthful, energetic, emotional vibes. Yes, that's what I meant to say, but I just said it kind of all over the place, but you know what I mean. So, because we talked about that before in other readings, pages generally denote sort of a fresh spirit, and because it's the cups, it means that we're able to approach our life with levity, emotional levity. Okay, so that concludes it for this reading. As I said, it's a little heavy and a little dark, but we're getting used to that because that's just kind of the journey we're all on. I mean, this is no longer a time of, happy-go-lucky. Things are going to get heavy in 2020, so we got to be on our game. But for our little Christmas bonus, for those of you who celebrate Christmas, or belated Hanukkah bonus if you're Jewish, or whatever other things you might celebrate, if you're pagan, like, Yule. We got these 4 cards. We got the King of Swords, we got the 3 of Cups, we got the Knight of Wands, and we got the Queen of Pentacles. So, the nice thing is, we got one of each of the elements. The King of Swords, we saw the Queen of Swords in our reading in terms of that energy. The King of Swords is, please don't quote me on this from a feminist perspective, but the King of Swords is one step up from the Queen in the sense that this person not only has ownership of their ideas, but they basically they rule with their truth. So this is telling us that over the holidays we have to stay true to ourselves. In other words, stay in your intellectual truth. Stay intellectual is what that's also saying. Use your mind. Don't look at this as just being a time to flake out of life and not do any cerebral work, because you're going to gain a lot from being around people that you engage with intellectually. Excuse me. The 3 of Cups speaks for itself. Look at the picture. That's what you're going to be doing, celebrating in your community with friends and family and loved ones, and hopefully all 3, and dancing around raising your cups. So emotionally speaking, we know that we're covered for good celebration. Knight of Wands is fun and sexy. If you're into sexy, then that works for you too. The Knight of Wands is definitely free-spirited, and so be loose and fancy-free with your ideas and be open to everything in terms of your heart. And just have fun. Let your hair down. Let loose. Don't overthink things. And finally, we get the Queen of Pentacles, which means that we are going to feel plentiful. We're not going to feel in lack in terms of resources. So that's all I really wanted to add. Those are all good. So at least you're off the hook for the holidays themselves. You'll have fun. Good stuff. We'll all have fun. And I think this was kind of long. No, it's 43 minutes now, so it's not too much longer than it usually is. I will leave you with that. I think there's lots of interesting stuff to contemplate from this reading. Please take the time to honor yourselves on the solstice. And I will be back. Will be after Christmas, and it will be after the eclipse. So I think I'll be back on the 26th. No. Who knows? I'll be back next week anyway, with more messages for you. And I wish you happy holidays. I hope you have a fantastic time with your loved ones. And I wish you a fabulous eclipse. It's important. Eclipses are really, really important times. Anyway, that's it. Peace out. Love you. Bye.